In this one, we're going to really primarily focus on live edits. I don't do this as much as the sort of live mashups I like to do, switching between songs, etc. But usually at a portion of the mix, I like to do sort of live edits of the songs. And primarily what I mean by that is you're using your cue points, right? So you have a selection of your key moments in the song, and then you're switching between those moments. So let's have a look at what I'm on about in this clip, and then we'll break it down a little bit more. Okay, so there's a lot of other stuff happening here as well, which we'll get into. But that main thing is here. So like I've mentioned a few times now, we can either, from our cue points, create live edits or save cue points for later and create new ones on the spot. In this situation, okay, you know, the funny thing is I can't remember if I switch that cue point and save that cue point, but either way, we are able to create an additional section for us to manipulate. So we can either, as this building, because this type of song is a little bit more alternative in nature, it's more of a dance alternative. So we can either switch to that section that we want, or we can create a cue point for that moment and we can come back to it. For this type of song, you know, it's like "You Better Love Me," and then it has like, you know, some quirky sort of sound effects and breaks, and you can really amplify those moments. And I mean, specifically when I say a live edit, I believe there's really a prominent moment. I believe there should be, because I picked this clip for some reason. We just got to search through a little bit. So here we have the sort of first one that comes up, this okay, and the bass kick. Okay, so some big drums, Middle Eastern vibes in there, some congas, some African beats in there, so a mixture of different influences. I think it's really cool. So you see how that's a great example of this sort of live edit. So in this situation, we're not creating a cue point on the spot for later. We are switching to another cue point. So in this song, there's a very super progressive style build, sort of chorus that's happening. And it's creating that tension, it's creating that build up that we want. And compared in this first song, we have that first sort of chorus or drop that is more percussive and it has those, you know, bigger drums and congas and that more of that sort of elements of the big room and a big percussive instrumentation, which was okay for that short little part, but now we're, you know, wanting to build it up and ramp it up. So we're able then to switch over to another point of the song. Instead of, you know, waiting for the song to go on for however long it is, you can intensify the progression of the song. So instead of it going by its own length, you can shorten it down, create those live edits of that song, which sometimes might just be a great alternative for the track. In this case, we have one section that's a lot more percussive, and then we're going into more of a section that's a little more progressive and a little more melodic and intention and then building up, which is awesome. So we're able then to shorten it down, display a few key moments of the song in a shorter span. So that's really just the main thing I wanted to show for this one, was this practical application of using these cue points in a mix setting. It doesn't have to be just, okay, that's, cue point A going to this cue point, and okay, going from this point to that point. You can really create on the spot quick transitions if you time it well. When I was first starting out doing these cue points, I would do them smack on the beat, right? So I'll pick verses, the verse, choruses, etc. And for my performing style, for the way I like to mix, I found that I always preferred having a bar or so before the main chorus. And that would be something I would encourage you guys to try out in your approach to setting up cue points, especially when you're doing live edits of those songs in your mix. You're setting up your cue point a bar or so beforehand, so you have a little bit of wiggle room to work with those cue points. So what do I mean? So you have this section of the song coming through, and it's a little bit, it's quite aggressive. It just it goes straight into the drop of the next one. It's a bit unnatural, because no matter how precise you are, it's going to be always a little bit off. So when you know that you set up your cue points, always give you a bit like a bar or so of breathing room. You can then time it well, usually on like a shout out or a vocal moment, like a bass kick. There's something that's random that happens in a song. I'm not a big fan of those build, and then supercalifragilistic, boom, boom, boom. Or like apples and cream, boom, boom, boom. Some random vocal, some supercalifragilistic. Supercalifragilistic, boom, boom. Someone's gotta do that eventually. I'm not a huge fan of those. I think it's a bit just generic. But instead of just complaining about them and be like use them to your advantage. In these situations when you are switching and creating these quick transitions, some of those moments you can really use it to your benefit and create something spontaneous. So in this situation you can use like bass kick, what happened, and then bam, and go straight into it. So you can use in those situations try and find something that's meaningful, like this situation where it's something more like bass kick, and then like, oh, it's okay, it's actually bass is gonna come in or something like that. Maybe don't try and go for something that's too generic, just completely left field, and like some random albatross, like TUX. You don't want that, but find something that at least is powerful, like or someone swearing or something like that. Really gives it, puts it front and center. Something that gives it some sort of meaning, some sort of context of what you want to do. In terms of just creating these sort of live edits, that's really it. It's quite straightforward. Just some simple sort of best practices. The first main one is just give yourself a bit of breathing room when you are setting up your cue points, right? Having the ability to really set up cue points. Armin van Buuren did a really awesome video about this years ago, I think, just on YouTube somewhere you can find it. And his course also on the masterclass course that he's done as well, showing some, the way he approaches DJing. And, the one fundamental things that his approach is based on having really structured cue points, having meaningful cue points. When you load up a song, you know exactly, okay, the chorus of the song, or a key moment in the song, or a cool sort of vocal shout or percussive element. Something like that is just good practice. And in particular, if you're wanting to switch between the song and create your own sort of edit, then giving yourself a little bit of breathing room between the cue points. Don't just set up at straight at the drop, and you set up a bar beforehand to give you that space. That will be just another sort of best practice. Set up your cue points, right? So number one, at the key moments, at cool moments within the song, and secondly, give yourself a bit of breathing room in those cue points you set up. Give yourself at least a bar, just so you can quickly transition to them, and you can add some effects or something like that, just so it's a little more musical and it's less noticeable that you're switching between things. That's not to say that you can't have it bang on. You're just gonna be very, very sharp and bang on the grid to do something like that. Yeah, and lastly, never be closed off, never be completely oblivious to what's happening in mixing. Just focus on, that's my cue point, and that's it. Particularly if you're working with a live crowd, sometimes you want to have certain parts extended, and the crowd might be really vibing with it, and that's okay. It's almost in the perspective of playing a certain song more than once. If the crowd's really digging that song and you play only like the verse or chorus or something, bring it back in, and sometimes have a bit of fun, see how many times you can play it. And if you get the same reaction, cool, just you have a bit of fun with it. Nothing wrong with playing a song that's really vibing with your crowd, 5-6 times if you want. It's all about interacting with that crowd when you're out in that live setting. And having the capability like this to really extend those key moments in a song, to go back to a certain one, to if something's not really working and it's a bit lower key, you can quickly switch over to something else to really keep it going. Okay, so yeah, some really key, just ideas, some best practices to think about when you are wanting to set up your cue points.